There are the rules everyone learns, and then there are the rules Machiavelli would never utter, the ones that distinguish true power from mere bravado and dominance from exposure. While most believe power is something to be displayed, Machiavelli understood the opposite. Real power is found in restraint, especially when others are watching. In public, you are observed not just by people, but by opportunity, reputation, and those waiting for you to falter. Rising above others isn't about dazzling the crowd. It's about being flawless. There are 9 subtle, deeply human behaviors that, if revealed, can quietly erode your presence, mystique, and control. 1. Never complain in public. Complaining may seem relatable, but to those with influence, it signals the opposite. Machiavelli recognized that public complaints reveal 2 fatal flaws: a lack of control and a craving for sympathy. Both repel power. Those who can endure hardship in silence attract strength. The moment you air your frustrations, you become someone who needs no longer a threat or a mystery, but a person to be managed. Stay silent, endure in private. Let others wonder at your composure. 2. Never expose your insecurity. Share your doubts only in the strictest confidence, if at all. What you admit in public, people will start to believe, whether it's true or not. Repeating, "I'm not good at this," or "I struggle with confidence," ensures others will lower their expectations of you. Machiavelli knew that appearances mold reality, and nothing undermines authority faster than self-professed weakness. Even in uncertainty, maintain your posture. Let your internal doubts remain invisible. What unsettles others is not your words, but what you keep hidden. 3. Never boast about your plans. Some trumpet their ambitions for all to hear. Machiavelli would simply smile, knowing that public plans breed 2 problems. Supporters feel no urgency to help, and adversaries gain a roadmap to undermine you. Announce nothing. Let your achievements speak for themselves. Move in silence until your results are undeniable. When questioned, respond with a smile and little else. True power grows best in the shadows. 4. Never take sides in petty public disputes. Loyalty shown in private is strength. In public, it's predictability. Machiavelli warned rulers to avoid entanglement in others' quarrels, unless there's something to gain. By joining a dispute, you make unnecessary enemies, form alliances on emotion rather than strategy, and, most dangerously, reveal your values before you have the power to enforce them. Let others reveal themselves. Observe. Remember. Position yourself. Public neutrality is not cowardice. It's the foundation of future dominance. Never show hunger for attention. In the realm of power, nothing is more repellent than the scent of desperation. The moment you display a need for attention, whether by forcing laughter, chasing validation, or seeking approval, you surrender your leverage. The crowd senses your need, and with that, they gain control over you. Machiavelli warned that the more you depend on others, especially for psychological needs, the less they will value you. Neediness is a currency that quickly devalues itself in the marketplace of influence. When you enter a room seeking to be liked, you become instantly replaceable, just another face in the crowd, easy to dismiss. But if you walk in radiating composure, calm, and a quiet indifference, you become an enigma. The undefined cannot be dismissed, because it cannot be categorized or controlled. True influence is not about being the center of attention. It's about being the gravitational force others orbit around. The powerful are those who do not need the room. They let the room come to them. If you want real power, cultivate the art of being pursued, not the art of pursuit. 6. Never break under pressure, even slightly. Public adversity, arguments, accusations, moments of stress are not just challenges. They are tests of your myth. Most people fail not by erupting, but by leaking. A tightened voice, a fleeting grimace, a faltering stance. The audience, even unconsciously, registers these micro-signals as cracks in your armor. In that instant, the legend you've built begins to crumble. Machiavelli would never allow pressure to show. He absorbed it, letting it strengthen his resolve rather than weaken his presence. Even if turmoil raged inside, his exterior remained unshaken, not robotic, but controlled. This visible stillness under fire turns you into a psychological landmark, a figure others instinctively adjust themselves around. The less you react, the more others are forced to react to you. Your composure becomes the axis of the room's emotional state, and your myth remains intact. 7. Never publicly over-explain yourself. The compulsion to justify every action is the undoing of many. When you explain yourself excessively, especially in response to criticism or controversy, you hand over your narrative to the crowd. Now you are reacting to them, existing on their terms, and your authority is diminished. Machiavelli understood that power is not in the abundance of words, but in their scarcity and precision. Instead of softening your stance or clarifying your intent, make people question their own reactions. If pressed for an explanation, respond with ambiguity. Perhaps you misunderstood me, or perhaps you understood me perfectly. This keeps you in control of the frame and forces others to grapple with your meaning on your terms. The less you explain, the more people project their own interpretations onto you, and in that projection, you gain psychological dominance. 8. Never reveal bitterness toward rejection. Rejection is inevitable, but your response determines your strength. To display bitterness, through sarcasm, forced laughter, or visible hurt, is to broadcast vulnerability. It says, I noticed, I care, I am diminished by this. Machiavelli would call such displays emotional suicide. The powerful respond to exclusion or dismissal, not with resentment but with elegant detachment. Treat your attention as a rare resource. When someone removes themselves from your circle, act as if they have freed you, not wounded you. The expectation is that you will chase. When you do not, the dynamic reverses, and those who excluded you may find themselves seeking your presence. Your stillness in the face of rejection is not just self-protection, it is a silent assertion of value. 9. Never publicly criticize someone more powerful. It may be tempting to call out those above you, especially when you're right, but public criticism of the powerful rarely serves your interests. Instead, it marks you as jealous or as a threat to be neutralized. Machiavelli's wisdom was to observe, to wait, and to strike only when the advantage was certain and the context strategic. If criticism is necessary, deliver it with surgical precision, through indirect means or at a time when it serves your long-term goals. Power is not in the blunt delivery of truth, but in the careful calculation of when and how truth is revealed. The wise never fire first in public. They let time and circumstance erode the position of the powerful, then act when the moment is ripe. Power is not merely preserved by what you avoid. It is forged in the subtle art of what you project. When you remove the weaknesses Machiavelli despised, you create a vacuum that others rush to fill with their own interpretations. The world abhors a vacuum, especially in matters of presence and authority. People will assign meaning to your silence, your composure, your restraint, whether you intend it or not. Thus, the game of power is not just about avoiding destruction, but about crafting dominance, quietly, precisely, and with unwavering stillness, not through aggression or ego, but through the deliberate cultivation of mystery, positioning, and selective revelation. In this way, you do not just survive the public arena, you shape it around you. You've already learned what to subtract. Now learn what to install in its place. Replace complaints with unreadable endurance. When people complain, they leak need. When you endure in silence, you create mystery. Machiavelli would never show the pain, he'd channel it. In public, your silence in adversity becomes intimidating because people fear what they can't measure. If you're under pressure and still unshaken, they wonder how bad is it really? Why isn't he breaking? What is he planning in return? You don't need to smile or pretend, just radiate emotional indifference. The kind that makes people question their own strength in comparison. Your pain is your weapon, but only if no one sees it clearly. Replace insecurity with strategic ambiguity. Insecurity is a signal, ambiguity is a mirror. The insecure explain, overshare, seek correction. But Machiavellian ambiguity is different. It leaves people unsure on purpose. You don't say, I don't know what I'm doing. You say, I have something in mind, and say nothing else. You don't admit confusion. You ask questions that shift focus. You're not pretending to know everything. You're making them unsure what you know. Once people believe you're playing a longer game, they begin to overthink everything around you, and the moment they're distracted by your ambiguity, you have the advantage. Replace boasting with subtle power signals. Announcing power weakens it. Revealing it accidentally is how you own the frame. The powerful don't list their achievements. They let them leak. You're not a leader because you say you are. You are because people keep looking to you during uncertain moments. You don't tell people you're building something. They notice your time is being protected. You don't say you've won. They see your silence while others celebrate. That's power, not in display, but in delay. When you master this, even your silence becomes a symbol of movement. Replace public loyalty gestures with quiet allegiance. When everyone's fighting and shouting their side, you stay silent, not because you don't care, but because you value influence over approval. The strongest form of loyalty, the kind no one sees. Machiavelli always served alliances behind closed doors. You can support someone, you can be loyal, but doing it in public is theater, and it usually costs more than it's worth. If you protect someone in secret, they'll trust you more. If you act neutral in public, you stay invincible. That's the move. Support privately, rule publicly by revealing nothing. Replace attention-seeking with controlled withdrawal. The loudest person in the room is usually the weakest. So instead of entering with noise, enter with timed absence. Don't speak unless the moment is waiting for your voice. Don't laugh unless it punctuates silence. Don't stand where everyone gathers. Stand just outside the orbit and pull attention there, because humans are wired to chase contrast. In a room full of performers, the one who holds himself apart becomes the anchor, the gravitational force. Machiavelli understood a ruler doesn't win with noise. He wins by being the one people adjust around. Replace breakdown with pre-planned stills. When you're challenged, don't try to defend yourself, attack, or win the moment. Instead, create what Machiavelli would call preset postures. The pause before response, the stare without emotion, the lean-back silence after interruption, the refusal to match the other person's panic. These are deliberate physical moves that break the tempo of others. Because when people expect a reactive opponent and get nothing, they collapse into their own confusion. Your calm becomes provocative. Once they start unraveling, you become the one who looks like he planned the whole thing. Replace over-explanation with micro-mystery. The more you talk, the more they define you. The less you talk, the more they project. When people project onto you, you own their imagination. So instead of explaining your decision, respond with, "Let's see how it plays out." Instead of clarifying your behavior, simply say, "It made sense to me." Now they have to work to understand you. And in that work they assign meaning that often exceeds your actual intent. Which is perfect, because Machiavelli never wanted to be understood. He wanted to be interpreted, and those interpretations were often more powerful than the truth. Replace bitterness with quiet exit. When rejected or ignored in public, you don't retaliate or justify. You disappear, not in anger, but in cold, refined detachment. Because the person who removes themselves without spectacle creates discomfort in everyone else. You didn't argue. You didn't beg. You simply withdrew. Now the crowd fills in the gaps. Did he know something we didn't? Was this a move? Why does it feel like we just lost something valuable? You've made yourself scarce without damage, and that makes your return, if you choose to return, infinitely more powerful. Replace criticism with delayed precision. You never strike the moment someone offends you. Instead, you wait. You study. You let time peel back the layers of their weakness. Then, one day in a different context, you expose a truth so specific, so surgical, that it looks accidental, but it isn't. It's payback perfected by restraint. Machiavelli never said that man is weak. He let the man's actions prove it, and then whispered a single phrase to the right audience after the fall began. This is how power moves through words, not loudly, but with patience. Control without perception is just invisible effort. Machiavelli never worked silently, unless the silence made others paranoid. This is the next phase, shaping the image people build of you when you're not around. In public, you're not just presenting your character, you're installing your legend. That legend isn't built through what you say. It's built through what you let people assume and how you respond to their instincts. It's about curating power by bending perception, before anyone has a chance to define you. Machiavelli didn't want to be understood. He wanted to be feared and followed with no clear explanation why. That's your goal now. Most people talk to fill silence. The Machiavellian speaks to create it. Public perception isn't shaped by what you say. It's shaped by the gaps between what you say. When you speak slowly, pause before answering, and leave thoughts hanging in midair, people begin to lean in. They start assuming intelligence where there's silence. They project meaning where you've said nothing at all. This is your weapon. Say less, mean more. Let pauses become a kind of invisible punctuation that holds tension. Let people finish your sentences in their minds. You're no longer a person delivering content. You're a presence they must interpret. Control eye contact like a weapon. There are only two ways to destroy someone in public without touching them: stare until they break or refuse to look at them at all. Machiavelli understood this long before psychology caught up. Your gaze in public isn't just about confidence. It's about positioning. When someone's trying to bait you, arguing, or overcompensating, hold their eyes calmly. Never flinch. Never overfocus. Just wait. They'll eventually shift away, and the moment they do, everyone watching knows who really won. If someone beneath you tries to provoke you, ignore their presence entirely, not with arrogance but with cold detachment. That silence, that refusal to even engage. Visually, it turns them into nothing, and the crowd sees it. Now they know your social ranking without a word spoken. Respond to provocation with calm redirection. The most dominant people in the room aren't the ones who win arguments. They're the ones who never appear to even join them. When someone tries to corner you with criticism or sarcasm in public, you don't defend or escalate. You pivot. You smile faintly. You redirect the topic so elegantly, it makes the aggressor look childish. And the room notices. They see you didn't need to win the moment. You simply walked past it. That's presence. Once people understand that you can't be baited, they stop trying. They adjust to your tempo. Now you control not just perception. You control the entire emotional temperature of any space you enter. Build a myth around your absence. The strongest moments of public power come when you're not even present. Because if you craft your image carefully enough, people begin to speak about you. When you leave, you say very little. You reveal even less. But you move in a way that creates curiosity. And curiosity breeds narrative. They start asking, what's he up to now? Did you see how calm he stayed when I heard he's working on something big? You've installed a myth, a low-frequency myth that travels through rooms without you. To build this, be just slightly less accessible than expected. Leave events early. Enter moments late. Say just enough to suggest depth. Never the full picture. And when someone brings up your name in conversation, let there always be a pause, a respect, a slight caution, a question mark. That's legend building. And legends don't shout, they echo. Let other people defend you publicly. Most people panic when their reputation is questioned. They jump to their own defense. Machiavelli never would. Why? Because the moment you defend yourself, you validate the accusation. Instead, he'd let others do it. He built quiet alliances, maintained poise, and trusted that his presence had installed enough loyalty and fear that someone in the room would push back on his behalf. You must do the same. Speak in such a way that people enjoy quoting you. Move in such a way that people feel smarter defending your silence. And when someone questions you publicly, you stay still. Say only they're entitled to their view. Let the room attack the attacker. You just watch. That's how rulers operate. They don't fight rumors. They let the myth correct them. Master the exit moment. Machiavelli believed that timing was the hidden engine behind perception. You could say the right thing at the wrong moment and lose everything. You could win the crowd and ruin it with a weak exit. So you must master the last moment of your public interactions. When you leave, leave while interest is still rising. Not after it has peaked, not when you're being dismissed. Leave with attention still in your hands. Walk away mid-conversation with a reason that sounds logical, but leaves them curious. I've got to handle something. Let's finish this another time. That's a good place to pause for now. You'll understand soon enough. Not smug, just precisely timed. And then when you're gone, they talk, not about what you said, but about why you left when you did. Now you're no longer a participant. You're the figure they recall when the room is empty. Machiavelli didn't just teach tactics. He taught atmosphere. Your goal isn't to impress people in public. Your goal is to disturb their certainty. ignite their imagination, and create a presence they can't quite explain but never forget. Presence alone is defensive, power begins when you use it, and Machiavelli didn't simply want to be respected. He wanted to move through the world like a loaded weapon, not always fired, but always noticed. This is where most people stop. They gain self-control and believe that's enough. But Machiavelli knew restraint is only half the art. Precision is the other. So now, you don't just walk into a room with presence. You begin to destabilize the room without moving a muscle. Use silence as a trap, not a shield. There's a silence that protects, and there's a silence that pulls people into mistakes. In public, use your quiet not just to protect yourself, but to bait others. When someone tries to provoke you, respond with a pause. Don't give them your words. Give them your stare. Give them your stillness. Give them nothing. They'll start over-explaining. They'll escalate. They'll talk too much, trying to fill the vacuum you've created. And in that moment, the room watches them unravel while you remain perfectly still. Machiavelli would use silence as a test. Let them reveal what kind of person they are in response to your restraint. The foolish rush to fill silence. The powerful let it swallow the unprepared. Redirect questions into questions. When people try to corner you, trap you, or gain insight into your mind publicly, never answer directly. Redirect. If someone asks, "Why did you do that?" Don't explain, ask, "Why does that interest you?" If they ask, "What are you planning next?" say, "Wouldn't it be smarter if I didn't say?" Now the crowd shifts attention. They stop looking for truth in your words and start looking for meaning in your intention. You've just flipped the power dynamic because when you answer, they own the pace. But when you make them explain themselves, you own the moment. Use micro-movements to create psychological discomfort. In public spaces, most people try to impress. They use big gestures, loud voices, fast movements. Machiavellian strategy uses micro-signals instead. A single glance that lingers too long, a smirk when someone else is trying to prove something, a slow, deliberate sip of your drink after someone finishes a passionate rant. These actions are deliberate minimalism. They say, "I'm not reacting because I already understand this moment better than you." It's dominance without volume. It's threat without words. These moves create unexplained discomfort, and that's where your power lives. When they can't understand you, they start adjusting themselves. Publicly praise the powerful with precision. Never criticize someone with more power in public. You already know this, but what Machiavelli would do instead is offer public praise strategically in ways that double as protection. You don't flatter randomly. You identify someone powerful and say something sharp, simple, and undeniable about their strength. His timing is always perfect. You can feel it. You always know when he's entered the room, even before you see him. Why do this? Because the powerful remember who protects their image. And in doing this, you become a ghost ally, someone who gains cover without showing submission. You're now included in their shield while still keeping your own weapon drawn. Never reveal who you're truly watching. In public, always acts like your focus is casual, but in truth, always be watching. Who's seeking attention the hardest? Who's subtly trying to compete with you? Who's pretending not to notice you, but is mirroring your posture? Machiavelli would scan the room without ever letting the room know it was being scanned. Because your power in public isn't just in commanding attention, it's in gathering data without being noticed. The person who watches everyone is dangerous. The person who watches quietly is unstoppable. When you see patterns, when you know who's envious, who's insecure, who's pretending, you gain the power to manipulate them slowly. Not today, not tomorrow, but when it matters. Respond to disrespect with calculated absence. Nothing destabilizes a public group dynamic more than your sudden silence. If someone cuts you off, undermines you, subtly tries to dismiss you, don't retaliate. Don't prove them wrong. Withdraw your energy, your words, your attention. Speak to others, change direction. Let the person realize they just removed themselves from your world without you even flinching. The crowd will notice, and the disrespectful one will feel colder than expected. They'll start performing harder, and in doing so, they lose control of themselves. You don't punish them. You vanish from their interest, and now their insecurity punishes them. Drop timed phrases that people replay later. A well-timed sentence is more dangerous than a 5-minute speech. You don't need to be the loudest person in the room. You need to drop one sentence that everyone replays in their mind after you leave. Machiavelli used to say, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." You want to echo that principle with your own words? Things like, "You'll understand later." Sometimes silence is louder than shouting. Power doesn't respond. It observes. You say it calmly in passing without emphasis, and it stays with them. They can't explain why, but they replay it. That's how you create psychological follow-through. Your presence extends beyond your voice. Your voice becomes ritual. Let public spaces turn you into a living riddle. Most people walk into a room hoping to be seen. You walk in and become a contradiction. Warm eyes, cold voice, silent posture, deadly presence. Engaging in one moment, withdrawn the next. Always polite, never predictable. This dissonance makes people pay attention because their brain can't settle on who you are. And in that space, that confusion, you become unforgettable. You're not just a person, you're a force they're trying to label, but can't. That's what Machiavelli would construct. Not a man who's powerful, but a man who distorts clarity wherever he stands.